T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Right now on Truth Today, we're going to be discussing 47 years ago is when Iran fell to Islam in modern history. Remembering 47 years of the brutal takeover and totalitarian reign. Now Islam is taking over the West and America. Will we wake up in time? What are our solutions to push back against this evil ideology? I pray that God will wake up his people. Don't want to miss the show right now on Truth Today. Well, good morning, good afternoon, folks. This is Pastor Shahram Hadian. Thank you so much for joining us live on Truth Today. We are so glad you can take the time to join us while we are obviously broadcasting live. We are on multiple platforms, and we are on Rumble as our main platform. I'll put that up on the screen in a minute. I'm also monitoring our comments on Rumble, and if you have questions, please ask your questions on the chat, and I'll do my best to follow those. We are live streaming to Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. And very soon, we are going to be live streaming to X. So we're going to expand our platform to also live stream to X and possibly to one other platform. We're checking on that. Just waiting for some more people to jump on. Again, welcome, Pastor Shahram Hadian, Truth and Love Ministry. Want to welcome all of you guys for joining us live. It is 11:10 Central Time. We are in Central Time Zone, 12:10 Eastern Time. And of course, we're still on vacation, but I want to continue to try to bring shows for you when we can. I was very exhausted last Thursday, and so I took the night off. And so thank you guys for your patience. Did not do a live show last Thursday. But I did, if you got a chance to see my shorter video that I did on Facebook, that's out there. We had shared that. It's also on Rumble, about a 32-minute video that I did, kind of sharing just my heart after my interview last week with my friend Mohammed Faridi. We had a great discussion. Encourage you to watch that show as well on what day it was, on Tuesday. That show, by the way, if you did not get a chance to watch it, is The World is Still Silent about Iran. But we will not be silent. It seems like everybody's kind of forgetting. And I know some of you are probably sitting out there thinking, well, why does he keep talking? I mean, this is multiple shows that I've done on Iran now over the last 4 weeks. Why does he keep talking about it? There's other things to talk about. Bear with me, because we as Christians, I believe, but certainly as an Iranian Christian, we are to be the voice of those right now who have no voice. So that's why I'm talking about it. That's why I am focused on it, because we're going to continue to be a voice. And so I apologize to some of you if you guys think that this is, kind of all that I'm talking about. Of course, we're also today going to be talking about the continued Islamic takeover of the United States and what we're witnessing there. I'll give you some more recent examples. And of course, we're fighting the battle here in America. But I will not be silent, and I will not stop being a voice for the Iranian people, as the world, in the most part, is turning a blind eye to what has happened in Iran, what continues to happen in Iran, which is a massacre, which is total suppression, total blackout. And so thank you guys all for joining us, for your prayers. A couple of quick housekeeping items again. Remember, if you want to know more about our ministry, tilministry.com, tilministry.com. Check out our calendar there. Check out all of our content. Our brand new DVD, Battle for America, is now on pre-order. You can order that. And again, our events calendar, just FYI, going to have a busy spring, Lord willing, and praise God. But folks in Bakersfield, California, February 22nd, I'm there morning and evening. And then also folks in Western Washington, I will be there February 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. We just added a morning event, a breakfast, prayer breakfast event, Saturday the 28th. So 5 events, 5 days. I will be in Western Washington at the end of February, March 1st. So we'll have that very soon on our events calendar, but just want to give you the FYI there. Also, remember, again, we're on Rumble. Do us a favor. There's a big button that says join. If you want to join our Rumble page, build up our subscribers, you can click there. As I said, I'm following the comments both there and on YouTube as well. Let us know where you're from. Thank you guys all for commenting where you're from. We have 4. Someone says we have 4 lives open. Is that on YouTube? Or maybe you can comment on what you're talking about there. I wonder if that's on YouTube. I had some problems this morning on YouTube. So would you let me know what that's from, where you're saying we have 4 lives open, 4 live feeds, I presume you mean, on that. So because on Rumble, when I checked Rumble, I believe we just have we have just the one feed that should be open on Rumble. All righty. So I want to get into today. And again, thank you guys all for joining us. 47 years. I want to talk about a little bit of history. 47 years ago is when Iran fell to Islam. Now, Sunday was February 1st. Today is February 3rd. On Sunday marked the 47th anniversary of a day that many Iranians regret. Now, you notice in the image there, there was an image I found with that clock and the word regret. Because I believe that if you talk to the majority of the Iranian people, those who are sane and not brainwashed by Islam and this demonic ideology, you will hear them say, we regret. There is deep regret because of their actions, perhaps in supporting the deception that was claiming that life was so bad in Iran, or they have regret for not doing enough to stop the takeover and the fall of Iran. Either way, you have great regret. And as I've said on previous programs, this is one of the reasons I believe that the majority of the Iranian people, both inside and outside Iran, are supporting the son of the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, because they want to make right that which they messed up, that which was the mistake, that which was the regret. They want to make it right. And I don't know if it can be made right. I don't know if we can go back in time. But I just want to go through a little bit of history. And for some of you who've not heard my full story, again, I want to just kind of review this because February 1st, 1979, there was an exiled Islamic cleric by the name of Ruhollah Khomeini. This is his picture right here. This guy sitting in a Boeing 747 Air France with his evil other Islamic clerics coming back to Iran. That picture was taken in air as they were flying back. And then when they landed, here's a picture of when they landed, when he got off of the plane. And he was welcomed by a mob. But if you watch the videos, you'll see that there was also members of the military who supported his return. Because as I've said, the red and green axis was alive and well in Iran going back to the 1940s. And you had the infiltration of the communist Marxists in Iran going back to the 1940s. In the late 50s and early 60s, as the Shah of Iran was leading what they called a white revolution, and that was not white as in racist. It was not a racist thing. It was to basically white as in to purify. They wanted to purify Persia, and he wanted to get rid of this Islamic hegemony that was over Persia, which wasn't and isn't Persia's history. The quote religion of Persia is Zoroastrianism, which goes back long before Islam ever set its ugly foot on the planet. The Shah of Iran wanted to liberate Iran from that Islamic conquest and bring back a Persian identity. So that was called the White Revolution, 1963. At that time, leading up to that revolution, this cleric, Ruhollah Khomeini, was in Iran fomenting revolution, fomenting overthrow, fomenting getting rid of the Shah, which was part of the Pahlavi dynasty. So the Shah of Iran, when I was born there, his father had taken over, then he took over from his father and was there until 1979. Khomeini was then exiled. He was kicked out of Iran because of his fomenting, and because of that, he was exiled in France from that period until 1979. So about almost 15 years. During that time, as the Shah was leading this revolution, white revolution, to modernize Iran, westernize Iran, it was the absolute pinnacle of freedom and prosperity and economic prosperity, social prosperity, freedom for women. And yes, it was decadent at times, absolutely. But yet the fact is that it was ultimate concept of freedom. People had a chance to choose, good or bad. And as a result of that, I wanted to bring kind of this perspective today. Again, we're talking about remembering 47 years ago when Islam took over Iran. What led up to that? And now we're witnessing this in the West. So I'm giving you this backstory to understand what's going on. And by the way, I'm going to give an update on what I think is happening right now inside Iran and what's happening outside of Iran. I'm going to try to give you an update on this. But so when my dad, who was in the military under the Shah of Iran, when Jimmy Carter was elected, and I've said this before, Jimmy Carter betrayed Iran. The deep state that had somehow helped the Shah to remain in power now turned, because Iran became a threat to the world. Iran became a threat to the Islamic nations. Iran became a threat not because of any threats they've made, but simply because of independence, because of the fact that they were controlling their own resources, their own oil, and the Shah was not going to be a puppet of anybody. And so therefore, I believe to the globalist entity, that red-green axis, it became a threat. In Iran, the red was behind the scenes, and they began to foment the idea of green. Hey, we're a Muslim country. We need to return back to our Islamic roots, not this decadence, not this monarchy. And therefore, Khomeini was calling for that. And I'm going to play just a quick video here in a minute of the return of Khomeini, because again, Sunday was February 1st. Sunday was the day 47 years ago, or February 1st was the day 47 years ago that Khomeini landed. Now, the Shah of Iran was already out of the country getting medical attention for cancer. So he did not flee. He was already out of the country. Part of the military, again, my dad was in the army. Part of the army had already began to turn on the Shah. Not my dad, but part of the army had, because of this Marxist communist infiltration, because of the betrayal from the West, betrayal from America, and they started turning. When Khomeini lands, the army, some of them support him, and some of them were still clashing. So it was not until February 11th. So in 8 days, we'll mark the 47th anniversary of the day when the government of the Shah collapses because of this internal strife. All the paid protesters, all the agitators. This should sound familiar to what's going on in America. The fomenting of civil war, the fomenting of these paid agitators, the fomenting of outside forces, trying to create this havoc and division and chaos. All of that happened in Iran. All of that is familiar to me with what I'm witnessing now, and have been witnessing for the last number of years in America, including in Minneapolis. So when my dad saw those things happening and he lost his position as a liaison officer between the United States Army and the Iranian army because of Jimmy Carter, then he decided, I'm going to take early retirement. I'm out. And we were planning on, by the way, this is my new cup. If you guys are in the Pensacola area, we're on the Gulf area, Gulf of America now. I encourage you to visit the Naval Museum. We went with our family to the Naval Museum. It was incredible. I love the Naval Museum, so I got my Blue Angels cup, finally. I'm a huge fan of the Blue Angels, and got to watch them fly back in October, and marked that off my bucket list. And so if you guys ever get a chance to come down to the Naval Aviation Museum, it was a phenomenal experience. My kids loved it. It was unbelievable. So encourage that. But anyway, so cheers for my Blue Angels mug. Praise God. Now, when my dad took early retirement, he was going to get us out of Iran. We were planning on leaving, but later than we did. With urgency, he came home one day in the fall of 1978 and said, we need to leave. We need to go. And we literally, I mean, my dad had done a very good job of becoming a businessman after he got out of the army. He had owned property. He owned a hotel. He owned businesses. He was doing well financially. And we left everything behind. Literally packed up suitcases with whatever money we had, and then tried to liquidate things. But that was December of 1978. So from December of 1978 to when the Shah left in January of 1979 to February 1st of 1979 when Khomeini returns to February 11th. February 11th, the government collapses. And now there's a blackout. That's why I said earlier, last few episodes, the blackout that happened January 8th and 9th this time around was a blackout that brought bad memories for me, because I remember the blackout that happened after 1979 when the foreign media was kicked out, and then they began to kill people, execute people indiscriminately, secretly, in the darkness, no light, no exposure, nobody to watch it. And they estimate 30, 40,000 back then were killed. Now these numbers that we're hearing now are higher than that. So I covered that when I had Mohammed on my show on last Tuesday, a week ago. So let me go play this video just real quick. Again, I'm just doing a little history for you guys so we understand what we're dealing with. Here's a video of Khomeini returning. I'm going to go back here, returning back to Iran. And this was a day, I believe, that many, many, many Iranians regret. Watch this.
He said that even if he were, he expected either to be assassinated or to lead his country. But at 10 minutes to 10,
see the army there?
Khomeini was being helped down the steps of his chartered Air France jet to set foot on Iranian ground for the first time in 15 years. His first moments were uncomfortable ones, became increasingly nervous. Khomeini's name was the rallying cry that brought down the Shah, and now to his followers waiting outside the airport, he's the implacable opponent of Dr. Bakhtiar's government. The people were in a frenzy to catch just a glimpse of the man they revere like a god. They clawed and clambered and ran to see and be near him for 15 miles, and no more than a tiny fraction of the multitude succeeded. Thousand marshals had volunteered to help keep the crowds back. Their job was impossible. The immense swell of support for Khomeini makes his fully understand his plans for an Islamic Republic. Most see it in simple terms, as a permanent end to the Shah and a return to some ancient idea of justice.
Ancient idea of justice. By the way, this is the Associated Press, right?
Were cheering more than an idea. They were welcoming an old man they believe is capable of anything. Eric Taylor, News at 1, Tehran.
So, yeah, I mean, talk about biased reporting there with some version of justice. But the fact is that when he came back, as I said, they abolished the government. At that time, Bakhtiar, as they mentioned, was temporarily in power when the Shah left, and now that was overthrown, and within a matter of days, Khomeini takes power, and the power becomes brutal, and they began within months to establish a new constitution under Sharia, under Islamic rule. So again, that's when Iran becomes the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I want to be very clear on this, because some of you out there who are, again, wondering about why should America care about what's going on in Iran? Why should America even think about it? Because, you know, we should just be America first. Who cares about other countries? And you know, we've been really bad at nation building, which I agree with some of that we have been bad, terrible at nation building. But we have to remember that from that moment in 1979, it led to a fundamentalist movement. Turkey was predominantly secular back in 1979. Egypt was predominantly secular in 1979. The Saudis and the Arab Emirate nations, there wasn't much there. I mean, it was desert. They didn't have the level of control and oil that they do now. There was no OPEC, or it was just beginning. OPEC was just the beginning parts of it. They didn't have the power, the influence. Qatar was desert. Arab Emirates was mostly desert. The Saudi Arabia was mostly desert. Syria was under the Assad family, but they were fairly secular. Iraq was under Saddam Hussein, fairly secular. All of these Muslim countries today were in a secular phase. When Iran went to fundamentalism and now becomes an Islamic republic, that shifted the entire Middle East, North Africa, and the spread of Islam. This was a poignant moment. The betrayal of Jimmy Carter, the betrayal of the United States back then, was a poignant moment in the advancement of Islam. I need you guys to understand this. We need you guys to understand. We need people out there who are commenting who have no clue what they're talking about to understand that this isn't just about some other country. This was a fundamental moment in the shift of Islam back towards fundamentalism. It wasn't a start, because Islam has been fundamental from its onset after Muhammad moves to Medina. From 622 on, Islam is Islam. But this was in modern history the moment where all of a sudden now the entire region shifts into fundamentalism, strict interpretation of Islam. Whether you have the Shia Islam in Iran or you have the Sunni version, it's still Islam on its face. And now Turkey begins to move towards fundamentalism. Egypt moves towards fundamentalism. Jordan moves towards fundamentalism. Iraq, of course, falls and moves towards fundamentalism. You look at Syria, you look at now Pakistan, and now look at the Arab Emirate nations, look at Saudis, look at Kuwait. Places that were barren or mostly desert now have now all this wealth, because the West now become beholden to the oil and to OPEC, and Islam is given a new lifeline for these last days. And now what are we witnessing? We have witnessed the resurgence and the rebirth of the Islamic Caliphate throughout the Middle East and throughout Africa, and now into Western Europe, and now into the West. So that was a pivotal moment. And the reason it matters now is that from that, this regime in Iran is now the head of the snake that controls Hamas, that controls Hezbollah, that controls the Houthis, that has also supported ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, that is supported and worked with Russia and China to fund global jihad, to fund the global hatred of Jews and Christians. So what we're dealing with 47 years later is not just trite history, but it is now what is funneling and fueling the Islamic movement throughout the world. So a free Iran, the reason it is such a threat, the reason that many Western nations, including, I believe, foreign policy of the United States and all these Arab Muslim countries cannot tolerate a free Iran. Because again, as I've said, a free Iran would be an Islamic free Iran. It would once again shift the entire region towards rejection of Islamic supremacy, Islamic governance under Sharia. Because Iran did it, it has failed, it is an abject failure, it has done nothing but oppress its people, kill its people, starve its people, rob its people of their heritage, history, resources, lives, blood, generationally. And we don't understand that Iran is different than all the other areas that the United States has meddled or the globalists have meddled. And the Iranian people are in a place where they are more allied with the people of Israel. They're more allied with the people of the United States. They want to be supporters and friends. They want to be a part of that modernization as they did. So all of this, folks, all of this is leading to a place of a lack of understanding that when you hear people say, oh, we don't want Iran to become like Iraq. We don't want Iran to become like Egypt. We don't want Iran to become like XYZ. It won't, because it's different, because the history is different. But it is grieving for me 47 years later, when we just have witnessed the greatest uprising of the the true uprising of the Iranian people. Because please understand that there were many people in Iran, like, again, I've shared this story before, like my cousins who bought into, you had this MEK group in Iran, the MEK group in Iran, that was the Marxist communist sort of is Muslims. I've said it before, again, I'm not trying to be trite with it, but it's like Zoran Mamdani on steroids. It would be like Zoran Mamdani running Iran. That's why we do not support MEK taking over Iran today if it were to collapse under this regime. Reza Pahlavi is the one that they are calling for. And I'm going to have an update for you here in a minute of, we're trying to bring on an individual that is connected to this movement to liberate Iran. So I'll update that you before we leave today. But please understand that this is a pivotal moment in that MEK back then, they were working, the Marxists were working with Islam, the red green. And again, when Khomeini took over and Islam took over and subjugated the Iranian people, who had no clue, many of them, what they were chanting for. They had no clue, like many of our leftists today in America, who have no clue when they stand side by side with the Muslims. This is an article, by the way, from Rare Foundation. Look at this article. Texas alert. Marxist Islamic Coalition mobilizes at Dallas City Hall January 29th. ICE out now and plus jail killer cops. So you see the Marxists and the Muslims, the red-green axis, once again working together. Well, with their interfaith allies, within the church, within the Catholic Church, within the Protestant Evangelical Church, all of those ones who are like pro-open borders, let's bring everybody in, any enforcement of immigration is bad, ICE is murderous, and again, not to say that they're not making mistakes, but these are the same coalitions. When you go to that article and you look at that article, here's some of the groups that are working together. You have National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression in Dallas. You have Palestinian Youth Movement. You have Shias for Justice. That's Shia Muslims for Justice. Indivisible, Dallas. Team Brown Voices Fund. Vecino Unidos. Anti-War Committee. Democrat Socialists of America. Party for Socialism and Liberation. Communist Party USA. Revolutionary Front. Freedom Road Socialist Organization. These are the groups that are working together with the Muslims. They're all working together to now destabilize, to foment. The same things that we saw in Iran back before 1979 are happening here in the United States, have been happening for years. And though there were lots of Iranians that went along with it because they bought the lie from Khomeini, we're going to get free housing and free healthcare and free transportation and free education. Even though many of those things had been modernized under the Shah, the quality of living, the income of the Iranian people, the modernization, all the things that were happening back before 1979, all of that is thrown in the garbage. So all I have to ask this question is, look at 47 years later, and you tell me if you can honestly look at it. Is Iran better today? Was Iran better today because they picked a guy named Khomeini, who, by the way, came in and claimed under Shia Islam that he was the Mahdi, that he was the Messiah, the Islamic Messiah? Well, that didn't work out because he died in 1989. And since 1989, now Ali Khamenei, the guy that is the supreme leader of Iran, has been the supreme leader since 1989, oppressing, killing its own people for, again, this totality of 47 years. And I'm telling you, the absolute mood, the absolute sentiment of the majority of the Iranian people, because the other thing people don't talk about, 50% of the population inside Iran is under the age of 30. 50% of the population inside Iran, you talk about a baby boom, the baby boom in Iran is probably the greatest in the world. Almost 50% of the population, in fact, many, over 40% are under the age of 25. So when you have almost half the population that are under the age of 30 are young people, that's why all the ones that they're killing, let me just play this video for you here real quick. All the ones that they're killing. This is very sad to watch, but just watch this video. These are the faces of the people that have massacred. Again, as I've said to you, I am not going to be silent. If some of you feel that we're covering this too much, I apologize. But right now is a critical time, not just for Iran, but for the entirety of the world and the entirety of the pushback against Islam. You see, guys, if we defeat Islam in Iran, if we defeat Islam in Iran, we have a better chance of defeating in the West, because who was funding the majority of the college protests, pro-Hamas, Palestinian, so-called Palestinian? Who was funding it? It was Qatar, but it was also Iran. Who supported Hamas when they attacked October 7th in Israel? It was Iran, and the Qataris then supported and shielded Hamas members in Qatar. So you have this allegiance between the Sunni side, which is particularly now Turkey and Qatar, and also to some extent the Saudis, and then you have the Shia side being Iran. We're not just talking about liberating people in Iran over there, somewhere over there in the Middle East. We're talking about this would be a massive blow to the Islamic movement globally. Iran works with the Muslim Brotherhood. Iran works, again, with all of those proxies that we've mentioned. They fund and support all those proxies, specifically, again, with the Houthis in Yemen, with Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria, with Hamas, obviously, and the Islamic State, and Islamic Jihad, and so many of the entities that they have here. They were the predominant country that was working with Venezuela to infiltrate America. So we're talking about, this is global, folks. This is global what is at stake, not just about the people that have died in Iran. So let me just play this clip for you so we can get an idea. 47 years later, look at what the Iranian population, look at these faces. This is the faces of those who have given their lives Watch this.
گوله باران به خون کشیده شد خیابان ولی کلام آخرین شد که جان من فدای ایران تو ماندی و زمان نو شد خیال عاشقانه نو شد هزار دل شکست آخر 1001 بهانه نو شد ایران فدای عشق و خنده تو دل پر و تپنده تو فدای حسرت و امیدم رهایی رمنده تو رهایی رمنده تو ایران اگر دل تو را شکستم تو را به بند کینه بستم چه عاشقانه بی نشانی که پای درد تو نشستم که پای درد تو نشستم.
I wanted you to see that so that we don't forget that we're talking about a generation of young people. The massacre that they've committed, mostly on January, I've said this many times, right? Again, the videos that have come in, we still don't have a full reckoning of what's going on in Iran because so much of the internet and landlines and satellites are still blocked out. I said last week, why were they not? Yeah, Jules, many of these Iranians wore regular clothing. The young people in Iran rejected Islam. The women were not wearing hijab. If they were wearing hijab, they would wear it halfway down, as you saw in some of those pictures. They were telling this regime, you can go to hell, literally. You can go to hell. We will not submit. We will not succumb. That's why when Mahsa Amini was killed back in 2022, the women were taking off their hijabs. We had the massive protests. Several thousand were killed then. But this has been the worst massacre since the beginning of this Islamic dictatorship. And this is why so many young people have died. Because when you have 50% of the population that are under the age of 30, they're the majority who went onto the streets. They're the majority who are supporting this. Meanwhile, in America, we keep trying to codify Islam. We keep trying to normalize it. We keep trying to stroke it and hug it and love it and kiss it and say how wonderful it is. And to me, the most disgusting manifestation of that is what we see within the ecumenical movement, what we fight so much in our ministry. It's so disgusting what we see happening with many evangelicals and the Vatican and the Catholics and all these people who are out there saying, oh, we worship the same God. We have common ground. Islam is peaceful, tolerant. Mark Burns, that black pastor who was part of the MAGA movement, who is out there saying Islam is peaceable. It is not. Don't listen to these people that are telling you Islam is violent. He was the one who led that interfaith movement event just in DC at the end of January. And I still need to expose that, by the way. I still need to bring that forth so you understand what's going on within even the Republican Party, the MAGA movement, conservative circles. And we are fighting a physical battle, a spiritual battle, because the people of Iran have rejected it. And that's why what you see right now is you see these, let me show you some of the rallies that are happening outside. Here's Vancouver, British Columbia, February 1st. They had these on Sunday, this past Sunday, because of the fact that you were celebrating. Unfortunately, it wasn't a celebration. Sorry. They were remembering 47 years. Watch this. So they're talking about willing to fight. They're talking about willing to fight for the cause, willing to be a voice for the cause of what they see happening in Iran. They're shouting Shah Shah, long live the King of Kings. But I mean, they don't mean Jesus Christ, unfortunately, but they mean the Shah of Iran. Here you have another rally in, let me see where the Toronto one is. Is this here's the one in Toronto, I believe. No, let's see. Is this the one? I thought this was the one in Toronto. This is a big one as well. Listen to this. I think this is all over the place. Look at the Jews that are with the Iranians. They stand together. All right, you get the idea there. But again, that's one of the things that surprises a lot of people is why do we see in these in these rallies that we see for the Iranian people throughout Western Europe, throughout America, again, massive rallies in Toronto, massive rallies in Los Angeles, here in the States, San Francisco, London, massive rallies. But in these rallies, you see Israeli flags. Because again, the Persian people and the Jewish people are kindred. We are both Semitic. We are both connected. We have historical connection, biblical connection. And so this is what makes Iran so unique, unlike the Islamic world that hates Israel, that wants to destroy Israel off the face of the planet. This is why we stand with the Jewish people and the right to their land. We stand with biblical Christian Zionism, which is the right biblically to the land of Israel. There is no such thing as Palestine. There is no such thing as the Palestinians. So we talk about that. But I want you to understand that what is happening right now, and I said this in my video that I did on YouTube, and I've said it many times. The United States, when the President of the United States, President Trump, when he came out and said, we're locked and loaded, if you kill protesters, blah, 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 we're coming. Help is on the way. Take the institutions. I've watched so many videos of Iranians, both inside Iran, some inside Iran, again, not a lot, because the greatest massacre happened January 8th and 9th. The greatest part of the killing happened when the blackout happened and they began to just mow people down. That's where we're getting numbers of 30,000, 43,000, 60,000. Don't listen to these people that are telling you, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 died in Iran. That's nonsense. The regime itself has admitted at least 30,000 deaths. And that's them lying, and that's them undercutting it. It's possible that the number is going to hit six figures as executions are still going on, as the darkness is still there. Meanwhile, we are here now. January 13th was when President Trump said, help is on the way. January 13th. Today is February 3rd. So if I was to go back in the calendar, that was exactly 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago today was when President Trump said, help is on the way. Now, we get all these reports, right? The armadas reached fever pitch. They're all there. All this stuff, right? They're there. They're ready. And when I went on Facebook over the weekend and said, something is brewing in Iran, please pray, is because we saw those explosions. Let me go to Iran today and give you a little update of let me share the link. So here's Iran today. And I'm going to go to some of these videos. I want you to watch these videos of these explosions. Because, real quick, because what I saw was reminiscent of what happened in June of last year, when the Israeli presence inside Iran, the Mossad presence inside Iran, began to prepare the way for then the attacks that came through drones and through their airplanes. They initially took out key sites from sabotage from within. They set bombs, they took out some of the membership, they took out some of the strategic locations. So when we heard over the weekend on Saturday that there was multiple explosions around Iran, the government comes out and says, oh, there were just gas leaks. Oh, gas leaks in 8, 9 different cities at one time? Sure, there were gas leaks. I knew, wow, this looks exactly like what happened back in June of last year, because in June of last year, before Israel launched their Operation Rising Lion attack, they first went after some infrastructure and some senior officials with sabotaging from within. So just look at some of these videos here that I'm going to play. This is off of Iran International. And let me go to... Not that. That's not what I want. Here's one. Here's one, February 1st. Bandar Abbas is in the southern part of Iran. Okay? So that was one that was February 1st. Let's go to another one. Let me go back. And whoops, here we go. Let me go back down. This is news. Look at this. This is news. U.S. downs Iran drone after Tehran attempts to seize U.S. flagged tanker. This is breaking news right now off of Iran International. But let me go to these videos. Here is what just happened this morning. Large fire breaks out in western Tehran. This video came out. Somebody sent this to Iran International. I'm sure that was just a gas station. So what that tells me is that we are witnessing potentially some activity inside of Iran that could be labeled as subversive activity from outside sources, particularly Mossad. My gut is telling me that these coordinated attacks are sort of softening blows. Now, question, does this mean that the U.S. is about to launch? What frustrates me is this type of rhetoric. Iran, U.S. set for Istanbul talks as region scrambles to stave off war. Because Witkoff, this fool, and I know those of you who support the president, okay, Steve Witkoff, in my opinion, was the worst decision for a Middle East envoy. He has no clue about anything in the Middle East. The guy's a business guy. He just wants to go make deals. And so this fool is over there, and now they want Turkey, they want Egypt and Qatar. Turkey and Egypt and Qatar that fund the Muslim Brotherhood, that are fundamental supremacist Islamic ideology nations. You're going to have them negotiate with Iran to make a deal. And I said this when the president said this last week. There is no deal to be made. Now, I know some of you will say, Sharon, 3D chess, 4D chess. Every time I post something, it's 3D chess, 4D chess, or 5D chess. They have information you don't. Of course they have information I don't. But I do know the heart of the Iranian people, the heart of those who have been willing to die, stand in front of bullets and tanks and armored vehicles and gas, chemical weapons and 50 caliber rounds and machetes. They are done. There's no deal. There's no negotiations. There's no giving another lifeline to this regime, cut a deal, make a deal. And again, the concern that I have of a part of that deal is, okay, they need to actually leave power and hand over power. Now we have a problem because now you have the United States once again saying, let's give it to who we pick, i.e. MEK, rather than who the Iranian people in all of these rallies, these huge rallies outside of the country that are happening right now in Western Europe, in North America, in Australia, who are saying, we want Javid Shah, Javid Shah, Javid Shah, long live the Shah. They want Reza Pahlavi. Let me show you just a couple more videos. This is the regime. I have so many videos I could put. This is the regime. Look at this. Because the European Union designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization, Iranian lawmakers, those who are beholden to this Islamic regime, did this. They donned this. Look at this. Look at this. And they're shouting death to America. This was just Sunday. Look at this. They're all wearing now. These are the fools. Look at this. You think we can make a deal with this? You think there's a deal to be had with this? They're dawning. Now they're saying death to Israel. Death to America, death to Israel. Urupa, they're basically saying, Urupa, you fool. You get the idea. What deal? What deal are we talking about here? Sorry, that was small. I should have made that bigger there for you guys to see. What deal when they're shouting in their supposed parliament, wearing the clothes of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that has murdered tens of thousands of people, of their own people around the world, when they're funding the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who trains the likes of Hezbollah and Hamas, supports the aspect of jihad throughout the world. What deal are we talking about, Mr. Witkoff, President Trump? Is it? Oh, people say, oh, well, you know what they're doing is they're trying to show the world, look, we tried to make a deal before we hit them. So yes, I would love to believe that this flotilla that is right now over there, I would love to believe that these explosions that happened are setting the stage for the final blow. But when you have the United States bringing in Turkey and Qatar, when Turkey is taking over Syria, when Turkey wants Iran as well, when Turkey wants to attack Israel, when you have Qatar that is funneling billions of dollars to our universities here in America and to our media, like Mr. Tucker Carlson and others, to influence their propaganda. When you have the Witkoff family, when you have the Trump family, the Jared Kushner family, when you have these people beholden to the Qataris financially, how can we expect or even pray that they're going to make a right decision when 3 weeks ago the President of the United States said help is on the way? And thousands of Iranians have died and continue to die each day in secret executions. They're still under martial law. There's still a predominant blackout. Meanwhile, here in the United States, by the way, this is an incredible story that came out of Iran. Because look at this. Doctors in Iran, nurses in Iran have come together and they created a new network, a grassroots network called Red Lion and Sun. They're going back to, this is the sign of Persia, and they're emerging after the crackdowns, because what they're doing is they're going basically house to house and they're offering people help, medical care. Because remember what happened when they came to the hospital? The regime would show up in the hospital and shoot them in the head or poison them in the hospital. Doctors are missing. Doctors are right now on death row on execution, being about to be executed for helping the Iranian people. So the message, listen to what they're saying for America, in case you don't believe that this is coming to America. Here is, where is the one here? Here's Yasser Qadi. Here's Yasser Qadi talking about the percentage of what they're going to be doing in America. They're the percentages and how the percentages are growing. Let me play this for you. Let me go to full screen here. And just listen to a little bit of this.
Amongst the lowest percentages in the entire world.
Which is not true what he says, by the way. He says there's only 1% Muslim population in America. That's nonsense. I went to Australia 3 times. The first time I went was right after 9/11. And, you know, it was mashallah, nice, you know, to visit and whatnot. It was like 2-3% Muslim. I went a few months ago. I was shocked to hear that Australia is now 7% Muslim. And in cities like Sydney and Melbourne, it's like 10-15%. In the areas like Lakemba in Sydney, it's like 60% Muslim. There are 10 masajid in like 2 miles district because of the quantity of Muslims there. Canada, Toronto is 10% Muslim. Mississauga is 15% Muslim. 1 out of 8 people in Mississauga is Muslim. Any Canadians in the audience? You're Canadian? Half. This is a guy out of Texas.
London is 10% Muslim. England as a whole is 7% Muslim. England, UK as London is 10%. Oslo in Norway, I was there 3 months ago. Oslo, who would imagine? 10% Muslim. Vienna, I also visited Vienna this year. Vienna, almost 10% Muslim, 9%. 9% Muslims in Vienna. Paris, of the highest concentrations in the Western world, officially they say 17%, unofficially 20-25%. Potentially 1 out of 5 people in Paris is Muslim. Now let's move to America. We are less than 1%.
Lie. That's a lie, by the way.
To be honest here, we like to inflate our
That's
numbers.
a lie.
No. We are less than 1%, if even that,
Nope.
of the country.
That's a lie.
So that is a weakness. Now, of course, there's long-term positives. People are converting. Alhamdulillah, we do have, I call it our secret weapon. What is our secret weapon?
Yep, there you go.
Halal weapon. Very halal, mashallah. Keep having babies,
There you go.
mashallah. And I was in the small city of Malmo. And Malmo is predicted to be almost 50% Muslim within 2 decades, because they have an influx of refugees and the local people, because of economic reasons, have left and whatnot. So Malmo, you walk down Malmo, right now it's probably 30%, 20% Muslim. Little city of Malmo, but soon it'll be 50%, right? And I joke there that, guys, subhanAllah, without a doubt, within a few, generations, we have a secret weapon. We have children, they don't have children. So we're going to be having Malmo all Muslim, alhamdulillah.
There you go.
But it is frustrating to me that European Muslims don't understand how blessed and fortunate they are. It is really frustrating for me that France doesn't understand that there's so many percentage of Muslims over there,
I'm going to stop there for the sake of time, because we do need to wrap up here soon. But I want you to understand, this is the article there. This is what he's saying. We need Muslims in the FBI and CIA. Yasser Qadi. This is the guy in Plano, Texas. This is what's taking over Texas. This is how they're bragging about how they're going to take over America. And I can show you so many examples. Meanwhile, as I said, Iran matters. What happens in Iran matters. A free Iran matters to our ability to fight Islam here in the West. They are taking over Western Europe. They're taking over the West, and he's bragging about it. And they're taking over America. And don't listen to this number of. I saw another interview with a Muslim where he said there's at least 7.5 million Muslims in America. Well, that's obviously closer to the 3% number that I believe is more accurate. At least 3% overall in America. But he doesn't talk about the percentage of Muslims. Dearborn, Michigan now is almost 50% Muslim. Hamtramck, Michigan is now 54% Muslim. Dearborn Heights. You have obviously parts of Minneapolis now. You have St. Cloud, Bloomington, Minneapolis, Rochester, Minneapolis. You have areas that the percentage, but then have you been to Plano, Texas? Have you been to East Plano? Have you been to Richardson? Have you been to Irving? Have you been to Houston and Sugar Land? I have. And I'm telling you, their percentage is 20, 30% in those areas, not 1%, as Yasser Qadhi is lying to you. So they're taking over America. They're taking over the West. And the message of the Iranian people would be, we have regret for what we did 47 years ago. I'm trying to wrap this up. We have regret for what we did 47 years ago. Islam took over Iran and we didn't fight it. We succumbed to it. We fell for it. We were deceived by it. And we gave in to a coup. The message to America is the Iranian people have rejected Islam royally, totally, completely. And now their message to America is wake up. Wake up. So please continue to pray. And you heard Yasser Qadhi say their secret weapon. I want to end it with this. What's our solution? Well, first of all, we're dictated by Bible prophecy. We're dictated by the Lord's will. Certain things have to happen. The world is going to go in this direction, and Islam is going to be part of that beast system that is going to temporarily take over the world. So I wish I could sit here and say, we are going to destroy Islam. No, Jesus Christ, when he returns, the King of Kings, when he returns, is going to destroy Islam. He's going to destroy the red-green axis. He's going to destroy the beast system. He's going to destroy the Antichrist, the false prophet, the false religious system. He's going to destroy all of this before he sets up his throne on earth. Number two, we're dictated by our foolishness. While we in the West have chosen not to have children, have chosen to engage in abortion, which kills our babies in the womb, when we've chosen to engage in homosexuality and all these LGBTQ trans rights, all of that doesn't produce babies. What's the secret weapon, according to Yasser Qadhi? Hey, we're having lots of babies. Our population is going to simply take you guys over because we're having 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 children per family. You're having in America 1.7, in Europe about 1.3 to 1.4. You're dying out, we're increasing. So just numerically, we're going to take you over. Sorry. They call it jihad walada, jihad of the womb. Hey, women, Muslim women, what can you do for the cause? Have lots of babies. Meanwhile, we have forsaken the command of the Lord to be fruitful and multiply. I joke about this all the time, but it's why we have 6 children. And we lost 2 in pregnancy. We would have had 8. Lord's will be done. Because we believe that God said, be fruitful and multiply, to build up his people. So number one, we better get back to a place of having lots of children. We better get back to the place of rejecting and refuting and rebuking this lie of just have 1 or 2 kids and think about yourself and think about how hard it is to be a parent. We better get back to the place of trusting God as Christians, I'm talking about now, and decide, let's allow God to dictate the size of our family. And number 2, we better get back to the gospel. What's the solution? The only solution for Muslims is not to reform Islam, is not to engage in interfaith and ecumenicalism and all the nonsense that we see again from the Protestants and the evangelicals and the Vatican and the Catholics. We must get back to the place of preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ boldly, courageously, and unapologetically, because that's the only thing that's going to change the hearts of these Muslims. If we do not convert them to Christ, as what's, praise God, happening in Iran in mass, then they will simply exercise their agenda. And America will fall to Islam because it is the judgment of God. When we reject the one true God, God allows our enemies within, and it is the judgment of God. And I said in my video last week, President Trump, if your yes is not yes, you said as a world leader, as a leader of our nation, when you said help is on the way, when you said go and take the institutions, go into the streets, and people went and they died because of it, then, sir, the judgment of God will be upon our nation. It will visit our nation for a leader that is lying, a leader that doesn't hold his word. And I don't care what your reasons are. I don't care, because, listen, I know what the reasons are. It is the influence of the Arab Emirate Muslim nations. It is because the Qataris said you can't use our bases or our airspace. It is because the Saudis said you can't use our bases or our airspace. It is because those countries are saying you can't use our bases or our airspace to attack Iran. And now they're wanting to, quote, negotiate. Don't tell me that there's not that influence upon our government. Don't tell me that there's not that influence of all this rich Arab Muslim money upon our government. Don't tell me that his only reason for not attacking 3 weeks later is because of the fact that they want to make sure it's successful. So I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that they do hit, and I hope that those explosions in Iran were the signs of some internal work that had to be done to finish the job, to topple this regime, not just for the sake of a free Iran, but for the sake of the entire world and for the sake of our ability in the West to push back against the Islamic movement. Because you cut Iran and that head of the snake off and you get a chance. Now, there's still Russia, there's still China, there's still these other nations, there's still Bible prophecy, and another time I'll get back into that. But only the Lord's will prevail here. I don't know what God's will is. I think we can pray for freedom. We can pray for liberation. We can pray that that the Spirit of the Lord would be with the Iranian people, especially the millions of believers that are there. But ultimately, Lord, your will be done on this earth as it is in heaven. Fulfill your word, fulfill your prophecies, fulfill your purposes. And I think that I wanted you to understand that history. I wanted you to understand that, again, there is so much regret in the hearts of so many Iranians. And they conveyed that regret to their children. That's why the majority of the people who went into the streets who were murdered were young people, because they've conveyed that message to their children. We made a mistake. We would do anything to fix it. And that's the message to America. Don't make that mistake. For 20 plus years, I've been traveling around this nation to try to warn America, don't make the same mistake. Choose to stand, choose to speak out against this evil, choose to stand for freedom, true freedom. And the truest freedom is the freedom of Christ. The truest freedom is the freedom to worship God, worship Christ truly. So I am still deeply frustrated with our government. I'm deeply frustrated with the Trump administration. Yes, there are some good things they're doing. And yes, am I happier that they're in instead of Kamala? Sure. Doesn't mean we cannot critique and call out. And especially, I said this on my video last week, I believe that if President Trump, since he said he was going to do something, and again, he didn't have to do something, but since he said he's going to do something, I believe that now that bears judgment. And if he does not, this will go down, in my opinion, as equal maybe worse betrayal to Iran and to the world as Jimmy Carter and to some extent Barack Hussein Obama. And there will be a massive loss of support for Republicans and a massive loss of support for the Trump agenda from the Iranian community that voted in large numbers for Trump, for MAGA. That's going to be gone. I'm telling you right now. And this is not an ultimatum or a threat. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation, because when your yes is not a yes, you didn't have to say yes, but when you say yes, when you say go, when you say go stand, and people die because of it, now what are you doing? Now you are betraying, because I don't care what the reasons are. I don't care what the reasons are. There are so many different things that our government could be doing right now to help the Iranian people before they even shoot one missile or one bomb at Iran. So please pray. And by the way, one of the things that I want to do, let me show you this real quick. I'm trying to bring on a gentleman because people ask me, well, who would take over Iran? What would happen? Well, I want to introduce you to a website that's called Iranian Phoenix Project, or Iranian Project Phoenix. Here's the website. I want to encourage you guys to go check that. I'm trying to bring on a gentleman by the name of Dr. Arya Kangalu. My friend Andy Cyrus connected me with him. We're trying to bring him on at some point. I'm hoping Thursday, if not next week, when we get back from vacation. But we're going to bring him on. He's the architect of this project. He's the architect of basically the transition plan for Iran. This is the transition plan for Iran. This is what would happen with Reza Pahlavi leading the way to transition Iran out of this Islamic theocratic dictatorship to a secular-based, constitutional-based government. And if you go to this website, they have a layout of all of the things that they're planning for transition. So these people that say, oh, there's no opposition, the Trump administration or Rubio is saying, we don't know what's going to happen, who's going to take over. No, you're wrong. We absolutely know who can take over, who has a plan to take over, who has a plan to go in there and set up a transitional government and then actually allow the people to actually have a free election for the first time in 47 years. That is Reza Pahlavi. That is the Crown Prince. And I'm not saying he stays in power forever. I'm saying he leads the transition. He leads a transitional government that can then set the people of Iran free. And then it's up to them to choose. And obviously, I pray that that choice into secularism would not stop the movement of the Holy Spirit in Iran to under oppression. So many have come to Christ under oppression. And sometimes when we have too much freedom, we forget about the one true God. So I pray that doesn't happen. But nevertheless, this is what we're talking about. This is what is the opposite. So again, pray for that. Hopefully I'll update you if I can get him on Thursday's show. Again, Dr. Arya Kangalu. He's the architect of this Iranian Phoenix project. He's the architect of bringing other incredible Iranian scholars to the table, economic, societal, military, to put forth this transitional government with Reza Pahlavi at the helm. So there's a plan. And the people have made it very clear who they want. It's the American government that refuses because they have other agendas to go along with that plan. And it's because the Islamic Muslim countries cannot stand a free Iran. All right. I got to go, folks. Thank you guys all for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time. Again, Georgina, I think, yes, I listened to that. I answered that question earlier in the program. So if you get a chance to go back and listen to that. But, and look, I'm not being naive here that if they hit Iran, that there's not going to be retaliation. Of course, there's going to be retaliation. But there's going to be retaliation no matter what. This regime will never, ever, evil will never, ever, ever capitulate or coexist or get along. So whether they retaliate now or they activate themselves in America later, they're going to act. At some point, you got to go. And now it's because the Iranian people have come into the streets. The Iranian people have put their lives on the line. The Iranian people have shed their blood to say we want freedom. Now, this is not an outside influence operation as was 1979. This is now from within. This is now internal, organic. This is their wishes, their desires, their willingness to put everything on the line and say, we're done. We're done. And it's an incredible moment. I want to show you one final video here. Let me get back out of this thing. And I want to show you one final video of a gentleman. Where is that video? Right here. This was the slain Iranian protesters' last words. One must give one's life for freedom. Listen to this.
این فیلمو میگیرم دارم میرم بیرون، نه برای خودم، برای پسرامون، برای آیندگان، بدونن شاید هیچ کاری نکردیم براشون، شاید زودتر از اینا به قدم برمی‌داشتیم، ولی برای آزادی و جان داد. دیر و زود داره، سوخت و سوز نداره. بابا مادر خیلی دوستتون دارم. نمیدونم چه اتفاقی میفته، نمیدونم چی میشه. داداش آبجی خیلی دوستتون دارم. خیلی. جاوید شاه.
Javeed Shah. And he was killed because he said maybe we should have acted sooner. Again, don't let that regret, folks, of Iran be the regret of America. Maybe we should have acted sooner to stop Islam here in America. Maybe we should have been bolder. Maybe we should have been fiercer. Maybe we should have been stronger. Maybe we should have prayed more to stop Islam in America. So for us in our ministry, we will not be silent. We will not stop. We will not back down. We will not be quiet. Because true freedom, the freedom to worship God, the freedom at speech, the freedom at expression, the freedom to redress our grievances, all those things that are enshrined in our First Amendment here in the United States of America, those are worth. And the most important freedom is to worship our God freely. Those are worth laying down our lives for. That's true martyrdom, by the way, in Christ. Christians are killed every day around the world because why? Because they would not stop proclaiming the good news. They would not stop proclaiming the gospel. They would not stop standing for this book, for the words of God. They were willing to lay it all down. That's true freedom. That's true liberty. And that's what we're fighting for. So America, wake up. Christians, wake up. And pray that God would defibrillate his people. That's going to be my message for the rest of this year. Learn from Iran. Don't have regrets. Act now. Act now. Act now. So I want to thank you guys for being with us again today. Again, remember on Rumble, if you're on Rumble, just click join, like, and share. If you're on other platforms, I pray that you will join us as well, comment. And Dick, that's a great point. To stop Islam in America, we must stop their collaborators. I agree. We must stop the red-green axis. We must expose it. And that means exposing it politically and spiritually. This is why, again, we work to expose all of the interfaith, multi-faith deception. Expose churches and pastors and evangelicals and ministers that are doing kumbaya. I just got an email from somebody in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, saying they're doing another Chrislam event where some Anglican church is bringing in the Muslims, and they're going to talk about how much they have in common and how much they all worship the same God. Expose them. Call them out. We got to expose what's going on. The collaborators, I agree, including the Catholic Church and the Vatican. Now, I'm not saying all Catholics, but the same problem we have in Protestantism and evangelicalism is we're seeing there. And we got to expose the collaborators. We got to expose both the red and the green. And fight it with all the power the Lord gives you for truth. So God bless you guys again. Also, if you want to support this ministry, allow us to travel, allow us to warn, allow us to expose, allow us to speak, allow us to do these programs. Please go and to our ministry website and make a one-time donation, or you can mail in a check. So God bless you guys again. Lord willing, we'll be back with you Thursday night live here, and we'll see if we can get Dr. Kangaloo on with us. But have a blessed rest of your day. Be true to your faith. Be true to the Lord. Please do not compromise, and please continue to pray for the Iranian people. And if there is going to be a strike, may it happen in the perfect timing, and may it happen with the force and impact that it needs to have in order to do the job of toppling this snake and allowing freedom to rise up. So God bless you guys. We'll see you again next time. Pastor Shahram Hadian, have a blessed rest of your